Take a slow breath in and a gentle breath out. Let your body sink deeper into comfort, as if each muscle is unwinding, one by one. The day is finished now, and there is nothing more you need to do. You are safe, you are calm, and you are here, resting. Perhaps you can imagine the weight of your body being gently supported, as if the earth itself is holding you, softly, quietly, and around you, there is a hush, a stillness, almost like the silence of a medieval village at twilight. The sky is fading to indigo, a velvet shade where stars are beginning to flicker. You might hear the faint rustling of leaves in the evening breeze, the soft creak of wooden shutters being closed, and the muffled sound of distant voices, carried like whispers across cobblestone streets. And now, our story begins. Our story today begins in a time long ago, a time of stone cathedrals, winding roads, and the gentle rhythm of life lived close to the land. In the heart of a medieval town, where houses leaned in close to one another, and where narrow streets curved like secret pathways, there was a small workshop. A workshop where the air was always warm with the glow of the fire, and the scent of bronze and smoke seemed to cling to every wooden beam. This was the place of the bellmaker. He was a quiet man, with hands shaped by years of craft. His palms bore the roughness of hammer and chisel, yet his movements were gentle, patient, almost tender. He believed that every bell had its own soul, a voice waiting to be born, and it was his task to coax that voice from fire, earth, and metal. Outside, the town was winding down for the night. Children were being called inside by mothers with soft voices. A shepherd guided his sheep through the gate, the low bleating mixing with the rustle of wool, and the smell of bread baking still lingered in the cool air. But inside the workshop, all that could be heard was the slow, steady rhythm of the bellmaker's hammer. Tap, tap, tap. Not hurried, not harsh, just a steady heartbeat of sound, resonating through the warm chamber. Now, let yourself imagine sitting there with him. Perhaps you can feel the warmth of the fire touching your skin, like a gentle blanket of heat. You hear the faint hiss of metal meeting flame, and the soft scrape as the bellmaker shapes his mold. Everything is unhurried. There is no rush here. Only patience. Only calm. The bellmaker knew that in his craft, time was never wasted. It took weeks, sometimes months, to create just one bell. First, he would carve a wax model, shaping it carefully, as if sculpting a dream. Then, he would cover it with clay, layer upon layer, until it became a mold. Once the mold was ready, the wax inside would melt away, leaving a hollow space, ready to hold molten bronze. This process, called the lost wax method, had been used for centuries. The bellmaker had learned it from his father, who had learned it from his father before him, and he often wondered how many bells, in how many towns, were already singing with voices crafted by the hands of his family line. Outside, a gentle breeze moved through the streets. You might imagine the sound of it now, brushing through the trees, stirring the ivy that clung to stone walls. There is a hush, a softness to the night, and as you listen to the breeze, you feel yourself relaxing even deeper, as if the air itself is singing a lullaby. The bellmaker leaned closer to his work. In the firelight, the molten bronze shimmered like liquid sunlight, glowing and shifting as he stirred it. He whispered a blessing under his breath, as was the custom. For in those days, people believed that a bell could carry not only sound, but also spirit. When a bell rang, it was said to chase away storms. Its voice could call people to prayer, to safety, or to celebration. A bell could mourn with the grieving, or rejoice with the joyful. Each one was alive in its own way. And so, the bellmaker worked with reverence, with care, with love. Now, imagine the moment when the mold was ready. The air grew still, the fire glowed brighter, and slowly, carefully, the bellmaker poured the glowing bronze into the waiting shape. It hissed as it met the clay. The workshop filled with a warmth so deep, it felt as though time itself had paused. Perhaps you can picture it, the molten stream flowing steadily, filling every curve of the mold. The bellmaker's breath slow and steady. The world outside slipping into silence. Nothing else existing but this moment, and the forming of a bell that would one day sing above the rooftops. You can imagine now how many days must pass while the bronze cooled. How quiet the workshop would be, just the crackle of the hearth, the faint chirp of crickets outside, the bellmaker's footsteps pacing gently over the stone floor. And in that waiting, there was peace. Peace in patience. Peace in trust. That the metal would harden as it should. That the mold would hold true. That the bell's voice was already waiting, asleep inside its bronze walls. The bellmaker would often sit by the fire, polishing his tools, or humming softly to himself. Little songs, fragments of old hymns or folk melodies. The kind of tunes that seem to lull the very air into dreaming. Now, dear listener, as you imagine sitting there by the hearth, let yourself feel the warmth again. Feel the softness of the chair beneath you, the faint glow of fire on your skin, the steady rhythm of breath flowing in and out. You are safe here. You are calm here. And like the bellmaker's unfinished bell, you too are resting, preparing, waiting for your dreams to take form. Take another long, slow breath in, and release it, softly, like a sigh that carries away the last weight of the day. Feel yourself sinking deeper into comfort. Perhaps you can imagine that you are reclining on a soft straw mattress, tucked beneath a simple woolen blanket, the kind used in medieval homes, woven thick and warm, holding you like a gentle embrace. You are safe. You are calm. And in this state of ease, the story continues to unfold. The bellmaker awoke early one morning, as the first light of dawn painted the rooftops in pale gold. His workshop was cool and still, the fire now only a faint glow beneath the ashes. He crossed the room slowly, his footsteps light upon the stone floor, and paused before the mold. The bronze within had cooled through the long nights and days, and now, the time had come to reveal what rested inside. With careful, practiced hands, he began to break away the layers of clay. One by one, the pieces fell aside, until at last, the smooth, dark shape of the bell emerged, glimmering faintly in the morning light. The bellmaker ran his hand gently across its surface. He could feel its weight, its strength, its quiet promise. And though it did not yet ring, he imagined he could already hear its voice, deep and resonant, waiting to awaken. Outside, the town was stirring. A baker's cart rumbled softly along the street, carrying loaves still warm from the oven. The faint scent of bread drifted through the air, mixing with the sweetness of dew on the grass. Children's laughter rose and fell, light as birdsong, as they chased each other around the square. And in the heart of it all, the cathedral stood tall. Its towers reached into the sky, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. It was still being built, stone by stone, arch by arch, by the hands of countless masons and carpenters. Cathedrals often took generations to complete, their rising walls a testament to patience and faith. The bellmaker knew that his work was part of this great story, a story of stone and song, of devotion and time. And soon, his bell would find its home in the cathedral tower, where its voice would carry across the land. The day came when the townspeople gathered to see the bell lifted into its place. The air was alive with anticipation. Women in simple wool dresses whispered prayers, while men with calloused hands stood shoulder to shoulder, their eyes lifted toward the tower. Children clung to their mothers' skirts, peeking wide-eyed at the shining bronze form. The bell was bound with ropes, thick and strong, looped around its waist. Wooden scaffolds creaked as the men prepared to hoist it, their muscles tense beneath linen shirts. The bellmaker stood near the base, his heart steady, his eyes shining with quiet pride. He had shaped this bell with his own hands, and now it would rise above him, above the town, above the rooftops and fields, to take its place in the sky. Slowly, slowly, the bell began to lift. The ropes tightened, the pulleys groaned. Step by step, inch by inch, it ascended. You might imagine standing there, looking up, the sun glinting off the bronze, the gentle sway of the bell as it moved higher and higher. The crowd was silent, save for the faint creak of timber and the rustle of clothing in the breeze. Even the birds seemed to pause in their flight, as though watching the ascent with reverence. And at last, with a final heave of effort, the bell reached the tower's peak. It was settled carefully into its wooden frame, where it would hang for centuries, its great mouth open to the sky. The bellmaker climbed the tower steps, his legs steady despite the height. At the top, he ran his hand once more along the cool bronze surface. It gleamed in the sunlight, proud and strong. And for a moment, he closed his eyes, feeling the breeze tug gently at his hair, listening to the hush that surrounded him. From up here, the town looked like a tapestry. Narrow streets wound like threads through the clusters of homes. The river shimmered in the distance, catching the light like silver. And beyond, fields stretched out in quiet waves of green and gold. The bellmaker took a deep breath, and then with the gentle push of his hand, he set the bell in motion. The first sound was soft, almost like a whisper. Then came the deep, rolling voice of the bell, spreading outward like ripples on water. It echoed across rooftops, through alleys, over the fields and far into the horizon. The townspeople below bowed their heads. Some crossed themselves, some smiled, and some simply listened, their hearts swelling with wonder. For it was said that the voice of a bell was not just heard with the ears, but also felt in the chest, in the bones, in the very soul. The bellmaker stood in the tower, listening as his creation sang its first song. And in that sound, he felt a deep peace, a peace that was like the steady rhythm of the tides, the turning of seasons, the endless passage of time. Now, let yourself imagine hearing that sound. Low, resonant, carrying through the evening air. A sound that feels both ancient and eternal. It vibrates gently through you, as if loosening the last tension from your muscles. As if reminding you that you are part of something vast and timeless. Something safe and enduring. The bell continues to swing, its voice rising and falling like a lullaby. And with each toll, you drift deeper into calm, further into stillness, closer to rest. That night, when the town had grown quiet again, the bellmaker sat by his hearth. The fire crackled softly, casting golden light upon the walls. He sipped warm mead from a clay cup, its sweetness calming his throat. And he listened to the faint hum that still lingered in his mind, the echo of the bell's first song. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. Leaves rustled like whispered prayers. The stars shone down, ancient and steady, like lanterns scattered across the heavens. The bellmaker leaned back in his chair. His eyes grew heavy, and as he drifted toward sleep, he thought of the centuries to come, of weddings and harvest feasts and stormy nights, all marked by the voice of the bell he had made. And now, dear listener, as you rest in this story, let yourself drift too. Perhaps you can feel the echo of the bell within you, steady, soothing, timeless. Every breath you take is like the swing of the bell. Every exhale is like its voice rolling out into the night, and you are safe within that sound. Take in another soft, steady breath, and let it out like a gentle sigh. Notice how your body feels heavier now, as if the earth itself is holding you in its embrace. There is nowhere to go, nothing to do, only this moment, and the story, and your calm, steady breath. The bell had taken its place in the cathedral tower, and soon, its voice became a part of daily life in the village. At dawn, it would call the townspeople to rise. Its deep toll rolled through the streets, mingling with the crow of roosters and the clatter of wooden shutters being opened. Farmers would shoulder their tools, their boots crunching on frosted soil as they made their way to the fields. Children would rub their sleepy eyes and tumble out of straw beds, their laughter carried into the morning air. At midday, the bell would ring again. The sound would drift across the marketplace, where merchants spread cloth and spices, cheeses and herbs upon their stalls. Buyers haggled softly, voices blending with the clop of hooves on stone and the chatter of townsfolk. When the bell's voice rose, it was as if time itself paused, everyone looking up for a moment, letting the sound wash over them like a blessing. And at dusk, the bell would toll once more. Its echo lingered as shepherds guided their flocks home, as candles were lit in cottage windows, and as the sky deepened to a velvet shade of blue. The bell became more than just metal and sound. It became the heartbeat of the town. Every feast, every fast, every gathering was marked by its song. It told when a child was born. It told when a loved one was lost. It told when storms gathered. Its voice believed to scatter the thunderclouds, sending lightning away. The villagers trusted the bell. They listened for it, waited for it, leaned upon its steady rhythm like a lullaby that guided their days. Seasons began to pass. Spring returned with green shoots pushing through the soil, and the bell sang for planting. Summer came with golden fields swaying in the warm breeze, and the bell marked the hours of long work and laughter. Autumn followed, rich with harvest, apples piled high and grain gathered into sacks, the bell ringing joyfully as carts rolled into town. And then winter arrived, soft and quiet, with snow blanketing the streets, and the bell's toll carrying farther than ever in the cold, still air. You might imagine now, standing in the square on a winter's night, the air crisp and cool against your skin, the glow of torches flickering against stone walls, snowflakes drifting down, each one landing softly, silently, melting upon the warmth of your hand. And then, the sound of the bell, deep, steady, slow. It rolls across the rooftops, across the fields, across the sleeping countryside, a voice that seems to hold the whole village in its arms. With each toll, you feel yourself relaxing further, as if each sound were a wave, washing over you, carrying away the last tension of the day. The bellmaker grew older as the years turned. His hair silvered, his hands became slower, but his heart remained steady. He often climbed the tower to sit beside the bell, resting in its silent presence. Sometimes he would place his palm against the bronze, feeling its cool surface. He would remember the day he first poured the molten metal, the firelight glowing, the hush of the crowd, the bell's first song. And as he sat there, he felt the bell was not only his creation, but also his companion. For bells, in those times, were believed to carry spirit. They were baptized like children, given names, and blessed with holy water. The bellmaker knew this one's name, Sancta Lucia, after the Saint of Light, and he believed she listened, even in her silence, keeping watch over the village below. At night, when the village slept, the bellmaker sometimes dreamed of the bell. He dreamed of her voice ringing through starry skies, carrying beyond the hills, beyond the rivers, beyond the known world. He dreamed that her song was not just sound, but light, golden ripples spreading across the heavens. And in his dream, the villagers were children again. They listened to the bell and felt safe. They followed her voice into fields of endless peace, where no storm could touch them, where no sorrow could reach them. Dear listener, you may allow yourself to follow that dream as well. Imagine the bell ringing now, each sound like a golden circle expanding outward. You are inside that circle, held in its embrace. Each tone settles deeper into your body, easing your shoulders, your chest, your breath. Every toll tells you, you are safe. You are calm. You are at rest. Time moved gently forward. The children of the town grew taller, and some left for journeys beyond the hills. But always, when they returned, they heard the bell's voice and felt home again. The sound carried memories of childhood games in the square, of bread baking in the oven, of snow falling in winter silence. It was the sound of belonging. The bellmaker, now an old man, sat by the fire more often. He hummed softly, songs half remembered, while the flames flickered and the wind rattled the shutters. And sometimes, he felt the bell humming back to him, not with sound, but with presence, a companionship beyond words. And now, as you rest here in the story, perhaps you too can feel that companionship, as if something steady, ancient, and kind is watching over you, as if the slow toll of a bell echoes gently within your heart, guiding you deeper into calm. Listen, in your imagination, for that deep hum, low and soothing, rolling endlessly through the night air, a sound that carries you safely into dreams. Take in a slow, easy breath, and let it drift out, as softly as falling snow. Feel your body sinking deeper now, as if the mattress beneath you is becoming a quiet meadow, holding you tenderly. You are surrounded by calm, by safety, by the steady rhythm of breath, like the steady rhythm of the bell's voice. Years passed gently. The bellmaker's hair turned white, his back bent, and his hands trembled ever so slightly when he lifted his hammer. Yet he still visited the cathedral often, climbing the winding stone steps to the tower. Each step was slower now, yet he savored them. The cool stone beneath his fingers, the faint scent of wax from the chapel below, the hush that grew deeper with each level he climbed. At the top, he always paused to rest beside the bell. There she hung, magnificent and silent, waiting to sing again. The bronze surface had grown darker with time, yet still caught the sunlight like a patient jewel. The bellmaker would lean against her wooden frame, close his eyes, and listen, not to sound, but to presence. And he felt as though the bell, too, was listening back. One evening, as twilight settled like a violet cloak over the town, the bellmaker sat in his workshop by the fire. The flames flickered softly, and the air was filled with the familiar smell of wood smoke. He knew his days were fewer now, like embers glowing low before the fire fades. And yet, there was no fear, only peace. For he knew that when his hands no longer worked, the bell would still sing. His craft would continue long after him. He lifted a small wooden chest from beneath his bench. Inside lay his tools, chisels, hammers, molds carefully wrapped in linen. With quiet care, he polished each one. And then, as though whispering a secret, he placed them back inside, closing the lid gently. Tomorrow, he thought, he would pass these on to an apprentice who would carry the craft forward. The next morning, the town awoke to the sound of the bell. It rang steady and strong, calling people to gather in the square. The bellmaker had summoned them not with words, but with the voice of his creation. When the villagers arrived, they found him standing tall, though his frame was frail, beside a young boy. The boy's eyes were wide with wonder, his hands stained already with soot and clay from the workshop. "This," the bellmaker said softly, "is my apprentice. He will carry the song forward." The townsfolk nodded, smiling warmly, for they too had heard the bell's voice, and they trusted the man who had given it life. And so, the boy began to learn. Day by day, he stood beside the old master, watching, listening, shaping clay and wax, tending the fire. The bellmaker's voice was soft but steady, guiding him gently, like the toll of a bell guiding the hours. When the boy grew tired, the bellmaker would remind him, "Patience. A bell takes time, and time is never wasted when it is spent with care." Together, they worked through the seasons. The boy's hands grew stronger, his skill more certain, as the bellmaker's strength quietly ebbed away. And one evening, as winter settled softly over the village, the bellmaker placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "My work is nearly done," he whispered. "Yours is just beginning. Listen to the bell. She will teach you." That night, as snow drifted across the rooftops, the bellmaker returned once more to the cathedral tower. He climbed slowly, pausing often, but he reached the top at last. There, beneath the stars, he leaned against the bell. He felt the cool bronze beneath his palm, and he whispered a prayer. Not for himself, but for the town, for the boy, for the centuries yet to come. And then, he closed his eyes. The wind moved gently through the tower, carrying the scent of pine and snow. The stars glimmered above, ancient and kind, and the bell, silent and strong, seemed to hum with quiet presence, holding him in her embrace. The bellmaker did not wake again. The next morning, when the town learned of his passing, the bell was tolled in his honor. Slow, steady, resonant. Its voice rolled across the fields and valleys, carrying the story of the man who had shaped it. The villagers stood in silence, their heads bowed. The apprentice stood tallest among them, tears shining in his eyes, his hand pressed against his heart. He felt the sound not only in his chest, but deep in his soul. The bell was not mourning alone. It was also promising that the voice of the bellmaker would live on in every toll, in every echo, in every song that drifted through the centuries. And so, the seasons turned again. The apprentice grew, became a master himself, and the craft was carried forward. New bells were made, each one unique, each one with its own voice. But always, in the heart of the town, the great cathedral bell sang above them all, reminding them of the man who had first given her life. Generations came and went. Children grew, left, and returned. And still, the bell tolled at dawn, at midday, at dusk. Its sound became eternal. Now, dear listener, as you rest in this moment, imagine the toll of that bell. Deep and steady, slow and soothing. Each sound rolling across the fields of time. You are carried within that sound. Safe, cradled, timeless. The bell sings not only for the villagers of long ago, but for you, too. Its voice reaches across centuries, across silence, across sleep. And with every toll, you drift deeper, into stillness, into rest. Close your eyes once more, and feel how the air grows a little warmer, how the soft hush of night deepens around you, and how your body heavy and calm sinks even further into comfort. The flames in the bellmaker's workshop are still glowing, soft orange light flickering across the stone walls, casting long, gentle shadows that sway like dancers. And there, by the hearth, the bellmaker sits in quiet thought, his hands resting now, after a day of steady, measured work. You can hear the faint settling of the coals, the quiet hush of embers sighing into ash, and above it all, the deep silence of a medieval village wrapped in sleep. Our story continues here, in this calm, timeless place, where each moment drifts slowly, like a feather in the night. The bellmaker leans back, his eyes closing for a moment, listening to the faraway hush of the wind outside. The wind passes over the rooftops. It rustles the leaves of the elm tree at the edge of the square. It whispers through the cracks in the old wooden shutters. Every sound is gentle, nothing startling, everything slow, as if the entire world has agreed to breathe together, in and out, steady and calm. He thinks of the bell he is shaping, a bell that will soon be more than metal, more than bronze. It will be a voice that will call the village to moments of gathering, to weddings, to holy feasts, to simple days when the air is bright and the fields are golden, and also to storms, to nights when thunder rumbles, and people will draw close inside their homes, trusting the sound of the bell to watch over them. For in the medieval mind, bells were not only tools, they were guardians. It was believed their voices could chase away tempests, that their chimes could scatter the dark clouds themselves, and bring back peace. The bellmaker lets this thought linger, and you can let it linger too, like a soft echo inside your own mind. Imagine, if you will, a summer storm rolling across the hills, lightning flashing far away, rain pattering gently on thatched roofs, and then, the toll of the bell, low, resonant, steady, a sound that reaches not just ears, but hearts. You can feel how the vibration hums through stone walls, how it ripples softly through the night air, how it comforts the soul, reminding everyone they are safe. The fire in the workshop crackles softly again, and the bellmaker opens his eyes. He moves slowly, with no rush, rising to check the cooling mold, the great shape buried in the earth pit. The air smells of clay and smoke, and something faintly metallic. Above him, the rafters creak gently, old beams holding the quiet of centuries. He kneels by the mold, places a hand on its surface, and smiles faintly. There is a patience required here, a patience that matches the rhythm of life itself. And so, he waits. And so, you too may wait, resting in this calm space, letting the slow passage of time soothe you, like waves upon a shore. But as he waits, he hums softly to himself, a low tune, steady and soothing. A mason once taught him the song, a work song, used to keep rhythm during long hours. It is simple, for notes repeating, like the heartbeat of the day, and it blends with the sounds of the fire, the sigh of the wind, the soft stillness of the village. Perhaps you can hear it too, in your mind, a tune without words, just a melody, like the bell itself, waiting to be born. The bellmaker thinks of the villagers, the baker, who will hear the bell at dawn, and rise to knead dough in the dim light, the children, who will chase one another in the fields, but always pause when the bell calls them back, the monks, who will bow their heads, chanting in rhythm with its toll. And he thinks of travelers, those wandering souls who may pass through the village. To them, the bell will be a landmark, a voice of welcome, a reminder that they are not alone on the long road. The night deepens, the stars are bright, though the moon is hidden, and still, the bellmaker waits. Each breath is long, slow, easy. The coals dim further, the workshop cools, and soon, he drifts into a half-sleeping state, sitting by the mold, head bowed, as if dreaming alongside the unborn bell. And here, dear listener, you too may dream. Dream of the soft hum of metal. Dream of the glow of firelight. Dream of bells that chase away storms. The story lingers gently, not rushing forward, but unfolding slowly, like a flower at dawn. And as it unfolds, your body rests deeper, your mind drifts farther into quiet, because the bellmaker is not only shaping bronze, he is shaping peace.